Hey, what's up? My name is Ryan. In this video, we're looking at the giant, massive, kind of war game, kind of economic game, Scythe. Scythe blends the ideas of a resource production economic game with the ideas of a war game where you're going to be on a map, spaces on the map produce certain resources that you need to get to do certain things in the game. But there will also be war mechs walking around the map shooting at each other. The first thing I loved about playing Scythe was that there are so many options. It is so wide open, but it does it by giving you 4 actions. There are 4 top row actions that will be the primary things you do, the primary ways that you interact with the map. Well, just those 4 basic actions, when you start the game, where do you want to move? Where do you want to produce? You can choose to move to a forest and get a lot of wood, which will help you build buildings, which will give you completely different set of options and basically combos and cool things you can do. And if you choose to move to the mines and go to the mountains, get a lot of iron, which will help you build mechs, which will be better for war. So remember my very first turn playing this game, just like looking at the board thinking, whoa, like what do I do? There are literally so many options. But again, your player board, what you take your actions on, there are 4 options and you can't repeat options. So once you choose to move, the next turn you only really have 3 choices. Now you might choose to build and there are a few different ways you can build. You might choose to produce and then build and there are a few different ways you can do that. But in general, just things boil down to only a few primary actions you're taking, but you get so many options based off those few actions. Now as far as the bottom row actions go, they're always paired with a top row action. And this is something else I love about the game, and that is asymmetry, meaning that not every player board, action board, is the same. So some player board says that if you move to, underneath that top row action and move to, you may also take an additional bottom row action, which maybe is going to say, build a mech. If you have enough iron, you may build a mech. Well, someone else's board might have move 2 people, but underneath that one, that's the upgrade spot, to upgrade one of your actions. So not everyone will have the same top row actions with the bottom row actions. What's interesting though, you'll take the top row action, and if you can afford the bottom row action, you can do that one as well for free. So that's what kind of bleeds into this efficiency engine kind of thing, where if you're taking a whole bunch of top row actions just over and over and over again, and then once while doing the bottom row action, it's not that efficient. If you can find a way to take them and then pair them up with the bottom row, because you can do them both at the same time if you're allowed to do them. If you can do both, you can do both of them at the same time. That's way more efficient. And then again, the asymmetry comes in where you just look at the board. Every time you play the game, you have a different faction and a different action board. So the factions, your starting locations, some starting locations might not have wood, some might have oil, some might not have iron or something. They're all different. Then you look at your player board combined with that action board and you can say, okay, so what should I do? What do I want to go for? Do I want to try building mechs? Should I try to get some upgrades done so when I go to that spot, like some action spots work out great. Like, okay, I can go here and spend a coin and get 2 resources. Well, those 2 resources I want to get iron so I can then build mechs. When I build a mech on this board, I get a 2 coin refund. Well, then next time you can go back to that. After one more turn away, you go back to that one, you spend a coin, you get 2 iron again. Maybe you get a good cycle out and get all your mechs out really quickly. So every person, every board kind of has its focus, but you can also decide what you want to do with what's set out in front of you, where you want to go, how you want to use that particular power in combination with that particular board. Another point of asymmetry is that the mechs you build, every time you put a mech on the board, you get a little mech ability, which makes your main character and also your mechs basically getting a new power, like maybe move an extra spot or be able to cross rivers or go in the lakes. And also every faction starts with a unique bonus. Every single one of those are different. So when you're playing a game, you might not even want to build that many mechs, but you might still build one mech because you have a cool power that says when someone attacks you, like they lose a card or something like that, or they have to give you one of their combat cards. There's different things going on like that. So every single one of those boards are very asymmetric. So everything so far makes it sound like a pretty economic game. What's interesting though, there's a whole war element of it too. So when you produce things like wood in a forest, you put that on the space with those villagers. If those villagers get attacked by an enemy character or enemy mech and they conquer them, your villagers go back to the starting space. They actually take over those resources, which can help their endgame score, or they can actually spend them to do stuff on their player board. They conquered your resources. That really ups the player interaction. You can have a game where the threat of battle really makes you have a different strategy. Okay, I'm not going to go that direction. If I get too close to that player, they might attack me. You might not have an outright war, but the threat of war looming is going to kind of make you change your decision. And obviously your group, you might play someone who just goes to war all the time. You're going to vastly change. I've played a couple rounds with someone who was just all they want to do is combat, 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 which is fine. You can still win in that. You actually, it maybe not even the best strategy, but it's interesting because that's going to completely change the way you play the game compared to a couple players who sit on opposite sides of the map and just try to get their board done as fast as possible. Okay, so that's kind of how the game works, paired with also the things I like about the game. I want to explain a few more mechanisms in the game, but these kind of fall into the more neutral to kind of negative category. So the way you win the game is interesting. So there are a whole bunch of things you can do. You can win combat up to twice to get victory points. Not victory points, but stars. You can produce all 6 of your workers, 8 of your villagers, wherever they are. You can do 6 upgrades. You can build 4 mechs. You can get 4 recruits. A few different things you can do in the game to get these stars out. Once you put your 6th star out, the game immediately ends. So you put stars, like you win in combat, I'm gonna put a star on the board. Okay, I actually got all my upgrades done. All 6 upgrades are done. I put a star on the board. One positive is that the game does not have I go, we end a round, we reset, we just keep going around a circle, everyone taking turns. Once someone places that 6th star, it's over right away. That's good. What makes me kind of not love that mechanism sometimes is the game seems a little artificial. You could be dominating in certain ways, having all these mechs running over the board, but you're like, well, I need to do my upgrades, or I need to do my enlistment, or I need to do my buildings. I need to get something else to 4. Once I max out at 4, then I can put a star out there, which kind of leads me to another thing I think is kind of a negative. When I first played the game, I thought this was really cool. There is a popularity track. The winner basically has whoever has the most territory, whoever has the most resources, whoever has the most stars put out. But it's not necessarily the most of those things. It's most times a multiplier. So if you are really unpopular, if your popularity is super low, every territory you control is going to be worth 2 fewer points than someone who's really popular. It does make some interesting gameplay choices where you're trying to get to be popular enough. So at first I thought that was a pretty cool mechanism because you're okay, you want to be popular enough and still win the game. What ends up to me, most players are kind of just trying to mine popularity to a certain point. It's not the most interesting part of the game because you're like, well, I need 3 more popularity because there's 3 tiers. It's really tough to win that first tier. You can own more spaces, you can have more resources, you can have put your 6th star out first. Everyone else only has 4 or 5 stars. But if each one of those things are worth less, you probably aren't doing too good. So it adds some interest to the game, but also again, it can be a little on the artificial side when you're just like, I think, I'm going to go this thing here and get another popularity. So again, it's kind of this mining popularity of the whole game. But those are minor things. I think Scythe is awesome. It does this combination of you're doing war, but war isn't necessarily always best. You might be better off trying to rush the resources. And again, my favorite thing about it is all the upgrades. How do you want to do your upgrades? You want to get the enlistments out there, which give you a one-time bonus, and every time you take a bottom row action, you do something cool. Or do you want to do your upgrades, or do you want to get your mechs out there and have more powerful armies? So again, so many amazing engine building decisions you can make in the game, and so much player interaction. I love it so much. So recommendation-wise, I think it's a great game. It's an interesting one complexity-wise, because when you first get it out and you read the rule book, you're going to think it's like heavy, medium to heavy. It's so smooth once you get into it. Like it's just it doesn't seem as bad. Once you play a few rounds, the fact that I can go, hey, on my turn, I want to go here, I'm done. For a heavy game, that's fairly light decisions and light turns sometimes. So I think it's great. I think that really is a great medium way, maybe slightly heavier game people. If you haven't tried it yet, it's a super unique experience. If you don't think you will like the war game in your faceness of it, just be aware of that before you jump into it. You will definitely have things like, oh, I'm doing really good. And someone's going to say, yeah, I'm going to attack that spot. All your workers are going to get sent back to their starting space, and I'm going to take all that iron you made, which is going to totally mess up your next 3 or 4 turns. But just be aware of that if you are someone who doesn't love mean games, you don't like games that have a lot of direct fighting, it's there. There's going to be a lot of it in there, but I think it's great. I like that. I don't mind the aggressiveness. I also just think the way that upgrades is one of the most satisfying games. It basically gives you like, here's 4 bottom row actions. In a way, they're all upgrades. What upgrade do you want to do? You have 16 or 20 different options of different types of upgrades you can do. All right, so there's my review on Scythe, a game that I love. I mean, it's been out for a couple years now, a few years, but I've only found it recently, and I think it's great. If I do another like top 10 favorite games in the future, I'm pretty sure it's going to crack my top 10 games of all time. I like it. I like it that much. I think it's great. I've explored several rounds of it, but I feel like there's so much more to explore. It's a game I'd love to explore different player groups as well, because I could see getting a group of people where everyone's just playing individual. I can see a group of people where everyone's being more aggressive. I just think it's an awesome game. So if you haven't at least experienced it, it'd be a great game to try to play at a friend's house if you don't want to jump in yet and see if you would like it, because I think it'd be the kind of thing that people would be surprised to find they like, but also you might just find that you despise everything about the aggression and all the interaction. So try it out. It's really fun. Again, one of my new favorite games of all time. If you enjoyed the video, of course, hit that like button down below to really help the channel out. Also subscribe, see a lot more reviews like this. And I also do tons of playthroughs on the channel, some group playthroughs, some solo playthroughs. See ya.